it from Rosé, you better watch it go by. Every single thing about the bitch is right. Magnify the resume, the font is tight. I can rap, what a gag. Check it, baby, this is drag.
My first question is sort of, you're one of the finalists. What would a win mean for you? And what do you think Rosé being the season 13 champion would represent for the show?
I mean, winning would mean the world to me because I just went through so much during the season and really, really had to build myself from the ground up after falling flat on my face in the beginning. And I think that, it's a testament to my hard work and perseverance that I got to the end and am a finalist now. But I think it would be a great example for people of all walks everywhere to just be reminded that, if you don't give up, you can literally achieve anything and fully come out on top.
And since it's like sort of what you've seemingly gone through on the show this season, along with Denali and Simone, has sort of been about the struggle with your desire for perfection. Like, do you think that's an accurate representation of who you were going into the show? And how has the season changed you? Like, how have you come out of it as a different and better queen?
At my core, as an artist, I really am a perfectionist. I like things a certain way. I like things to be really, really finished and well finished. But as a drag queen, normally before I was on Drag Race, I was a messy queen, baby. I was like, I was a good time gal. I still am, but I think the kind of amplification of the show and what that kind of means, especially coming really out of nowhere during a pandemic when I hadn't really been doing drag for months and I hadn't performed in at least 6 months, I felt such an added pressure to really, really nail it and just hit it out of the park. I mean, I definitely think I've kind of accepted that part of myself, while also I've been able to, dismantle it a bit so that I can have more fun while I'm working.
You were in or are in Stephanie's Child with Jan from season 12.
What advice
did she give you before you packed off and went to the show? And did you have to pay for your Jantasy robe?
No, I did not have to pay for my Jantasy robe. I get all of my Jan merchandise completely free of charge. But no, Jan saw me off and helped me pack to come to film season 13. And she wrote a few, notes in a little journal that I took with me, just stuff to be aware of and to be mindful of. But really, the defining moment for me that gave me a lot of courage and strength from Jan was in my basement, packing up the last suitcase. And she looked in my eyes and she held my hands and she said, "You have everything in your suitcase and in your heart to win this. So just go do it." And that meant a lot to me. So I carried that with me through the whole competition.
Many of your fellow queens have noted that you like to sing through some of your thoughts. And we did see a bit of that on Untucked. Where did that come from? And do you know when and why you started doing that? Is it just something you've always done?
Speaking of Stephanie's Child, that is something that we do. We love to throw shade, deliver the punchline of a joke, or even just finish a sentence with a little bit of a song. It's just our fun little thing. And I think in that moment, I had to convey to Tina my point, and she wasn't really listening. So I said, you know what? They'll listen to me if I sing.
Your name is Rosé. You wear a lot of pink. What do you love about the color pink?
My favorite thing about pink is the fact that now as an adult, I can wear it whenever I want. Because when I was a kid, especially, during the 90s, it was, oh, you're a boy, you can't wear pink. You can't wear that. People are going to think you're gay. People are going to, assume this and that. And it was always just I don't know, maybe it was just the femininity of pink or, just the longing to wear something and partake in something that was forbidden. But I don't know. I just really wanted to have Rosé and my drag character be, a pink explosion of sorts.
Speaking of being a kid, you lived in Scotland until you were 10, longer than I thought you might. And Lawrence Chaney was just crowned the first Scottish Queen of Drag Race UK. What would it mean to be the first Scottish Queen of Drag Race US?
I mean, maybe to be any queen in winning queen in the Drag Race franchise would be, absolutely incredible. I think it'd be amazing for me to be the first Scottish American winner to the country of Scotland. Scotland has, once they became aware of my my upbringing and my heritage, the country has, almost unanimously showed so much support and enthusiasm for me on the show. And that's been like really, really, really nice. Because I love Scotland, and almost all of my family is still there. So I feel very connected to, the country and the people. So I don't know, it'd be nice to represent, where I came from.
So one of the unique things about the season was that there were these rotating guest judges. It wasn't like two total strangers every week popping in. Like you'd have people come back a couple times. Do you think that helped have judges that like got to know you better as the season went on? And also a lot of the like people like Michelle and Carson and Ross and stuff could pop in and be like sort of the mentors on the challenges. Like, do you think that helped them get to know you guys a little better?
Absolutely. I think one of the most exciting things about the idea of going to Drag Race is getting to meet and chat with and show what you do to all these, fabulous celebrities and public figures that, before the show to us would, for the most part, be kind of unattainable. And by no means were we robbed of that this season. Of course, we did have like the smaller rotating cast of judges. I loved that the judges got to come back and revisit and see who was still there, who was doing great, who's taking notes. I think that's really important. And I think it helped me,
One thing I'll say about you is like whenever the like Scarlett Johanssons or Annie Hathaways or whatever would pop up, it would seem like you were just like, oh, hey, do you know what I mean? Like you guys were never like shitting your pants, and you specifically were always like making jokes, which when you're talking to a fucking Avenger can be a little, you can be in your head about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure. Yeah,
I
mean, and I think that, again, in the beginning of the competition, I probably would have been a bit more, starstruck. But the whole theme of the past year of my life has been like, hey, this is a passing moment. This is another human being. Like, don't take it so seriously. Just breathe and like do your shit, So when, we got to a point where those were, the guests that would pop in via the TV in the workroom or the judges, I just was like, these are people. They're artists just like me. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's learn something.
I'm wondering if COVID sort of gave you that perspective too, like coming into the show during COVID, having, whatever, like, do you think it sort of helped change or changed what you would have brought to the competition and what you would get out of it?
Yeah. COVID changed everybody's life, man. Like everybody, obviously, the people who suffered, and became, unemployed, and the people who have remained employed, who have no issues with money or whatnot, like, or healthcare. It's affected everybody. And I think for us, it upped the ante, You've got like this title that we're all like dreaming of winning, a cash prize, just like the coveted, spot on a season of Drag Race. That all means so much, but to have it given to you when the world is like burning around you, you're like, okay, I hear you, universe. Like, I will make the most of this. Like, I'm not going to fuck this one up. So yeah, I think that really affected my journey and everything about the season.
Well, on that note, like the UK girls had to take a 7-month break in the middle of their season.
Yeah.
What would you have done with that break?
I would have worked out. I would have practiced sewing. I would have been in therapy. I would be just like untangling all the possible mess that I didn't think to or have time to, address before I got there. A 7-month break, I could not even imagine what that would be like in the middle of a Drag Race season. You could come back a completely different person. I would definitely come back better than I left. I can guarantee you that.
Big reveals have become sort of de rigueur for these like Drag Race finales. What are your thoughts on reveals and like what makes a good one? And does each season, like, do you feel pressure to one up the people that have come before you?
It's so funny you asked that because like we've been talking about this, like the top 4, about like reveals and how we feel about them. I think that reveals are an incredible, really like standalone art form that really, really do fabulously within the vessel of drag. But a reveal uncalled for is uncalled for. A reveal should literally be a reveal. It should be out of nowhere and a complete surprise. It should, you know, just like elevate the situation or the look like tremendously. My favorite thing and concept is a talent reveal. So I'm hoping we have several of those at the finale.
But not yours, of course.
Maybe, we'll see.
I was watching the Aquaria, Eureka, and I can't remember who the other person was the other day, and I was like,
It was
Cameron. Sorry, Cameron.
Yeah.
You could argue that like they all had reveals, but Aquarius was just like those confetti cannons, and that was like just very effective. Like it was just like a punctuation for the song. It wasn't like I'm gonna take off this shirt and have this shirt on, you know, like it was just subtle and it worked.
Totally. And I mean, like when it gets down to the nitty gritty, especially on their season where the last lip sync was a top 3 lip sync, you know, any little last measure could count and get you a little bit further past the finish line than your competitors, you know. And to go back to your question before, I realized I didn't answer something very important. It is absolutely like such a huge part of this process to study, in my opinion, to really study who came before and what happened before. And so on the seasons and just, you know, in the finales specifically, you definitely don't want to repeat something that's been done. You want to kind of think outside the box and do something creative that makes you stand alone, not only against your competitor, but like in the entire, you know, Drag Race kingdom.
It's strange because like I'm a fan of Race Chaser, the podcast Race Chaser, and they've been sort of talking, and the Chop too. They've been sort of talking about like how things sort of are repeating, or how 2 girls will, you know, especially in UK this season, like the challenge is this, and 2 girls come with sort of the same idea. And it does seem like now we've seen thousands of looks on the show. It is sort of hard to be original, and I imagine that pressure would be. It is a lot to sometimes come up with something totally new.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, at this point, it's 2021. Like, you know, almost nothing is original and everything is referential. That's just, you know, and art imitates, you know, itself and life. It's a cycle. We can't avoid it. I think that the really great thing about Drag Race, though, is that, you know, it's something that you can't really repeat, is like a very unique personality and point of view. So there's a difference between people who have taken from what they've seen and people who really build it from within and from the ground up their whole life. You know, that's something that kind of authenticity, I think, is what sets apart, you know, winners.
Well, I've never seen giant bracelets, and so there's at least that.
I want you all to know that Rue and I are both actively working in the music industry. One of us is a recording artist, and one is a singer.